This isn't a Ferrari, nor is it a Lamborghini, McLaren, or Porsche. For anyone unfamiliar, it may come as a surprise that the name on this badge is a modest one. In the United States, we know it as an Acura, and to the rest of the world, a Honda. That's right. It may look like a classic Italian supercar that you've never heard of, but in actuality, it's a sensible, affordable Honda you wouldn't believe existed. No matter where in the world you are, it's called the NSX, and this cannot be overstated. This may be one of the most important sports cars ever made. To explain why, I want to tangent real quick and talk about other cars, namely supercars. If you look at modern supercars, just based on how they look and how low they are, knowing how much power and how expensive they are, you may think that it's inconvenient and borderline scary to drive them. But I would argue against that point because they all have automatic transmissions, functional air conditioning, backup cameras, plenty of software to help you manage the power output. So it's really like driving any other car, you just look a lot better and can go a lot faster. But if you wind the clocks back to the 90s and before, the experience of driving a supercar was very different. They were half-tested rocket ships with non-functional aerodynamics, no power steering. It was very difficult to be able to manage the power that those cars were producing because it was still a lot of power, even back then, 25, 30 years ago. Then you factor in that they were uncomfortable, hopelessly unreliable, you couldn't see out of any of them, and then to top it all off, the actual driving experience wasn't all that pleasant to make everything else worth it. So the concept of a reliable, usable, well-rounded supercar was largely non-existent until 1990 with the release of the NSX. It created an entirely new approach to performance. You had ample luggage space, performance that could easily match or exceed a comparable Ferrari or Lamborghini, a comfortable ride, stunning looks, power steering, and most importantly, everything worked. Honda did what nobody before it managed to do, make a supercar you could actually enjoy. Let me talk you through the brochure bits on the original NSX. Now, when it was released in '91, it had a naturally aspirated 3-liter V6. It made 270 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque. Drive went exclusively to the rear wheels, and you could have either a 4-speed auto or a 5-speed manual. If you chose the 5-speed manual, 0 to 60 could be done with in just 5.2 seconds. Now, even by modern standards, that's pretty quick. To put things into perspective, a Ferrari of the time, like a 348, took 5.3 seconds to do 0 to 60. So even in a straight line, the original NSX was faster. Now, since the original release, Acura/Honda did do an update. So this is a 97 NSX-T. So they bored out the engine from 3 liters to 3.2, upped the power from 270 horsepower to 290, and the torque up to 224 from 210. So it is a slightly faster car, but this isn't a straight line car. There's a series on YouTube, I don't remember what it's called, I'm gonna do my best to find it, and if I do, it'll be in the description below, where they took cars of this era, not just Japanese sports cars, but Italian supercars as well, and they got them all on track, somewhere in Japan, I believe, with a bunch of professional racing drivers, and raced them wheel to wheel. And this car, the NSX, took first place in every single race that I watched where it was involved. And we're talking about racing against R34 GTRs, FD RX-7s, Ferrari 550s, Ferrari 355 Berlinettas, Mitsubishi Evos, Subaru STIs. It took all of them. On track, the NSX was undefeatable. The NSX was a track monster, the result no doubt of countless hours of tinkering and fine-tuning. The handling and chassis rigidity were credited to the influence from the Formula One driver Satoru Nakajima and legendary driver Ayrton Senna, who was already in Japan testing for the McLaren F1. The result was a 50% improvement in rigidity. It was the first production car to have an all-aluminum body, saving 200 kilos, and much of the development was done at the famed Nürburgring, as the engineers believed that the challenging circuit would reveal issues that testing in Japan might miss. Honda's approach could only be described as obsessive in their dedication to the idea that, quote, to create a sports car for the new era, we should balance human feelings and vehicle performance at higher levels. Based on my research, the original sales of the NSX were actually very good, but something happened a couple of years into production and sales dive bombed. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would imagine it has something to do with the brand, because whether we like it or not, branding plays a big part into a car's popularity. And even if this car looks the part, drives the part, and outperforms the competition at the end of the day, it was still an Acura slash Honda. And prices, if you asked me 10 years ago, how much would an NSX cost? I'd comfortably tell you that for a decent mileage, good condition example of the pre-facelift, you could spend $30,000 to $50,000. And for later year, lower mileage examples, 80 to 90 grand. Unfortunately, for people like me who really want to own an NSX, modern day pricing is very different. A high mileage example, even with modifications, will set you back $50,000 to $60,000. And if you try to find a low mileage pristine example, particularly of the facelift with the fixed headlights, you can easily spend 130, 150, 200,000 and up. These cars have gotten extremely expensive. And I think it's because people are appreciating them finally for how amazing they are. I mean, look at this car. It has 54,000 miles. It's a 1997. This car is well over 25 years old, and everything works on the car. None of the leather has cracked. There's no tearing anywhere. Dashboard looks great. All of the electronics work. There's no sticky buttons. With a lot of older Italian, actually even modern Italian supercars, you get these sticky buttons because of the type of materials that they were using at the time. And it's very expensive to fix that and very annoying to live with. But you don't have to deal with any of that in this car. And it still looks amazing. Looks aside, that is a lot of money for a car that produces under 400 horsepower, but you really can't consider this car purely for its performance. You have to look at its legacy. The NSX changed what a performance car could be, and beyond that, it gave us one of the best driver's cars that we'll likely ever get. A proper enthusiast's car is almost becoming a distant memory. For that reason, my answer to whether the NSX is worth it or not is yes, I think that it's worth it. I might be a little bit biased because I have a deep and profound love for the NSX, but I have that love because of what it is. It's not for no reason. In the automotive industry, the NSX showed the world that a performance car could look amazing, drive amazing, perform better than anything else, and still be reliable and usable, stand the test of time. It changed the industry completely. And for that reason alone, I think it's worth the money. But beyond that, when you look at cars of today, as much as their performance is impressive, for me at least, the feeling of driving the car is far more important than how fast it can go or what its 0 to 60 time is or what the Nürburgring lap time is. That's why I love my 2010 Porsche Boxster. It's a base model. It's not that fast, but I love driving it. I love how it makes me feel. As corny as that sounds, with the NSX, it's much the same story. We didn't drive this one today, but I have driven a 91 NSX, and it was one of the greatest driving experiences of my life, and probably always will be. Being that it is such a reliable car and such a well-made car, I think this is a car that people will be able to enjoy for many, many years to come. And taking into account its place in automotive history and the fact that they are usable and drivable, I think it's a great investment to have, and it's an investment that you can enjoy because you really are encouraged to drive it. That's all I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thank you to Josh the Auto Buyer for letting me come down and do a video of this 1997 Acura NSX-T. This car is actually currently available for sale. It's in great condition. I'm hoping that the footage will do it justice. It is modified. It's got Advan wheels, coilovers, and a supercharger. I think there might be some other things as well, but it's a very clean car. So if you're interested, I'll leave all of the relevant links in the description below to their social media, their website, as well as the posting for this car. So please do check them out. Otherwise, leave me a comment down below with your thoughts on the NSX. Do you still think it's worth it? Yes or no, and why? But thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.